Thank you for watching Scary Bear Attacks. If you like this episode, please remember to hit the like button and leave a comment or two, then subscribe and click on the bell to receive notifications of whenever we release new videos. Also, please remember to share them to your social media. Scary Bear Attacks. Today's episode takes us back in time to a place where people lived closely to nature and all of its dangers. Before the flying freeways and soaring buildings, the country around San Bernardino, California was wild, desolate, and fraught with dangers. The elevation of this area is generally under 1,000 feet above sea level, and the buildings that are now there were once speckled with pinyon, juniper, and chaparral in the valley floors. To the east lies San Bernardino National Forest, which is still crowded with Ponderosa lodgepole and sugar pine stands, and even has some oak woodlands mixed in there. The animals of the area include mule deer, with bighorn sheep dashing their way across the desert slopes. The predators in this area include coyotes, cougars, bobcats, and black bears. But at the time of this episode, the area also had enormous grizzly bears, and plenty of them too. In the mid-1800s, Mexican settlers were cultivating the arable lands, but mountain men and their families still roamed the forests, trapping animals for their furs to sell to the fur trading companies. These men risked their lives facing down blizzards and deserts, bears, and hostile natives to eke out a living in the only way that brought them happiness. One such man was Cristobal Isaac Slover. Around 1842, Slover had helped establish Fort Pueblo in Colorado, where he worked alongside a Jim Bridger, Kit Carson, and a few other hardy souls. He arrived at the fort with a mule loaded with beaver pelts, which proved to the fort occupants that he was an able and talented hunter. They immediately put him in charge of supplying the fort with meat. Alongside of John Brown Sr., he and their hunting party spent the time harvesting deer, antelope, elk, and buffalo to keep the fort fed and running. He was described as a peaceable man who was quiet and reserved in his demeanor. Slover was well known for his passion of pursuing the area's plentiful and enormous grizzlies. He called them kabibs, but the reason why isn't known. He was a talented hunter and wouldn't take advice from anyone, as many mountain men were set in their ways and stubborn. Other hunters who accompanied Slover advised him to take a more cautious approach to pursuing the bears and tried to get him to avoid the dangerous methods he found most useful. But he would never listen to them, as he preferred to face the giant bears without fear. Slover would get the itch to chase a grizzly and just disappear, sometimes for weeks at a time. Then he would show back up, often with a mule load full of various pelts and meat. Slover would trade, sell, or barter them for whatever supplies he needed, then disappear once again into the wilderness. At one point, Slover did his typical disappearing act, but never returned to report to Brown. Puzzled about what had come of Slover, Brown frequently thought of him over the coming years. In 1852, Brown traveled to an area in California called Aquamansa and heard tale of a man named Slover. He knew he had to find out if this was his old friend and hunting partner, so he asked for directions on how to find Slover's house and headed out. After Brown and his wife arrived at Slover Mountain, Slover and his wife, Donna Barbarita, welcomed them into their home. The ladies became fast friends, and the men enjoyed reminiscing about the good old days on the Colorado frontier, with their gray hair affirming their experiences. Now, just because Slover was older and no longer at the top of his game didn't mean he didn't get the urge to chase grizzlies. He would frequently wander off into the mountains alone to pursue them. Shortly after the Browns' visit ended, the elderly mountain man did just that. Accompanied by his hunting partner, Bill McMines, he decided to check out the area up the left fork of the Cajon Pass. This location lies just west of the Mojave Desert. Now, I know what you're thinking. There are no grizzlies in the Mojave Desert, but don't get ahead of me. The Cajon Pass traverses a small mountain range, and that is where the bears lived, as Slover knew all too well. On October 27th of 1854, the 68-year-old Slover and McMines climbed up the forested slopes and navigated the creeks and rivers until they had almost reached the Cajon Pass, when they spotted a large grizzly bear. They quickly conferred with each other and decided to pursue the bear. The men worked their way around the mountain and ended up where they had last viewed the bear, though they had temporarily lost sight of it while climbing. As they entered a small clearing, the giant bear suddenly came into view. Slover quickly shouldered his rifle and leveled his sights on the bear. The shot from his rifle echoed through the canyon as the bullet tore its path. Slover and McMines watched as the bear dropped, then regained its feet. It was mortally wounded, apparently, and slowly dragged itself into the nearest patch of brush. The men tried to keep an eye on exactly where the bear had went, but as it disappeared into the thick underbrush, they lost sight of it. Slover knew exactly what he wanted to do and immediately set off following the bear tracks. McMines tried to talk him into waiting to see if the bear might come out of the brush somewhere else, but Slover was having none of it. He knew how to kill a grizzly, and nothing was going to talk him out of doing what he loved to do. Slover reloaded his rifle and approached the location that the bear had entered the brush. Just as Slover reached the edge of the brush, the giant grizzly stormed toward him in an ambush attack. The bear had crawled into the brush and turned around to see exactly whom or what was following him, and Slover had walked right up to it. As the bear tackled Slover to the ground, it tore at his scalp, severing a large patch of it. The old mountain man tried to crawl away, but the bear clamped its jaws onto one of his legs and broke it with a twist of its head. McMines was looking on, but was unable to get a good shot at the bear as it savaged his hunting partner and friend. Slover tried to defend himself, but the old man was far too frail to resist such a powerful bear. The grizzly next clamped its jaws onto Slover's other leg and crushed the bones of it as well. Now unable to stand or crawl, Slover was nearly a defenseless target for the bear's rage. It bit into his arm and crunched it up and down, breaking it in several places. Seeing and hearing his friend being severely mauled by the angry grizzly, and knowing he could do nothing to save Slover, McMines headed his horse back down the mountain. He told residents of the area of Slover's devastating attack and mustered a rescue party. The small group of men cautiously approached the attack site and could see the bear laying dead near Slover. At first it seemed Slover was dead too, but as they approached they could see his chest heaving. They could see his head mutilated by the bear's claws and teeth. He had bruises and gashes covering his entire body. His body was contorted in ways far too damaging for any man to survive. The men couldn't pull any sensible comment from him as they tried to save him. He was on his deathbed due to the injuries the grizzly had inflicted on him before his bullet killed it. The rescue party brought Slover back down the mountain, and he hung on to life for 3 days, doted on by his loving wife. After he passed on, they buried him near his home he shared with Donna Barbarita. Though the city has sprung up around the valley, Slover Mountain still bears his name, and his legacy as a mountain man is cemented into the history books of the western United States and Mexico. Wow, the people back then had pretty interesting lives. After reviewing the details of this episode, I have a few questions for you. Why do you think such an experienced grizzly hunter would pursue a bear he didn't know was dead yet with such reckless abandon? Did you know that grizzlies once roamed where San Bernardino is now? What do you think drove people like Slover? Why didn't McMines do more to protect his friend? I'll be glad to read and respond to your thoughts, so please post them in the comments section below, and let's talk about it.
Thank you for watching Scary Bear Attacks. If you've enjoyed this episode, please consider clicking on the like button and clicking on the bell icon. We'll help you know when we post our new episodes. Posting our video links to your social media profiles furthers awareness, and it's fun. We slashed our prices in our merch store, linked below, so check out the bargains there while you shop. As a member of our human community, remember to adventure bravely and be careful out there, especially in bear country.